welcome back to another episode of Integrative You Radio. So we're here to shit on your goals for the new year,
Not your life, just your goals.
just your 2026 goals. So
Which is
I
an
do,
interesting theme because we just recorded about assholes and now we're shitting. It's you
now
put
we're
it
the
together.
assholes.
You put it
Yeah.
together.
Yeah, here we are. Well, I will say, at least in my social media algorithm, it's been a little bit more of a refreshing uh like avenue people are taking to the new year instead of it, being positive affirmations and New Year's resolutions. It's been a little bit more about, learn from or how are you going to make it different? You could still hear me, right?
I can hear you now. You cut out for a second.
Okay. So, recapping, just saying that there are people that are talking more about what didn't work for you in the previous year or previous years, and how are you changing that? How are you putting up boundaries, or how are you shifting that energy? And I appreciate that because essentially why we're here to shit on your goals is because many of us at certain points have set goals that either lost traction in as little as a week to maybe a few weeks, or goals that have just never come to fruition, regardless if it's a New Year resolution, New Year goal or not. And we're here to talk about why the fuck does that happen? Why do we set goals and burn out? Why do we set goals and never achieve them? What's the root cause? So I'm going to give
Right.
mine. Are you ready to give yours?
Go, go, go. Bye.
My main point that I want to bring to the table is what is your goal, vision, resolution? What is it rooted in? And what I mean by that is, especially in our industry, we've heard, I want to be healthier. But when we started to ask better questions, that person really just wanted to be thinner. They didn't want to have the physical aesthetic that they did. They didn't really want to become healthier. They really just wanted to become thinner and look different in the mirror. So that's two very different things. If you want to become healthier and you also have a vision of what your life looks like as that healthiest version of yourself, and there's something that is deeply aligned to your values. I want to be healthy because I want to grow and build a multi-million dollar company that impacts the world and changes how this is done or solves this problem. I want to be healthier because family is one of my highest values. And I have a grandkid coming into my life, and I want to be able to pick them up, throw them in the air, go to the park with them, run marathons with them, whatever. You have not only a goal, but you have a vision. Then you have a vision beyond the vision that's all aligned to what's most important to you.
Yeah, I just wrote down, and this is something that I do going through values with clients, is, people think I like health is a value. And I'm like,
Of all the
I
people that
mean,
we work with, I don't think any of them actually have health as
I'm like,
value.
probably not. Could be, but probably not. Because so far, everybody that I've worked with, it hasn't been. Somebody out there it is, but not for the people I've worked with. And if that's your value, you probably don't need me. You need me because it's not your value. But it's the same thing, but different than what you're saying. It's like, the vision beyond the vision. Health is just a tool. It's the tool to help you get what you value. If you focus on the tool and trying to achieve the tool, guess what? You'll never get what you really want because that wasn't the focus. If you focus on what you really, really want, and if that's authentic and truly aligned, then health is going to be a byproduct because you're naturally going to show up as a better version of yourself because this is so important. Health by itself, guess what? Not that important to a lot of people, but they'll choose, actions of waking up, exercising, eating quality foods, not overly drinking, not overly eating, moderation, etc. Because if they don't, that's going to interfere, brain fog, fatigue, etc., with what they truly want in their life. Whether that's building a business, whether that's showing up and being present for their children, whether that's being, an awesome husband, wife, etc. You know, whatever's truly aligned, that's what's going to be powerful.
Yeah.
And if you focus on the health, that's when people need all the motivation. They need external motivation to say, like, yeah, this is going to get you excited, and you're going to wake up early for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then you're not
Hmm.
because it really wasn't that important to you.
100%. It's actually funny because something that I was writing down as you were talking, and I think this is just an important point to make is that a lot of people, so going back to what we were talking about with the people that we work with and how they say, "Oh yeah, definitely one of my highest values is health. That's why I'm here." And I've actually taken in a lot of data by asking better questions with all the clients that we've worked with over the past, I'm going to say, let's say 5 years, primarily because I just didn't ask these questions in the earlier part of our career because I just didn't know what I didn't know. But it actually turned out that most of the people that we worked with, they had a massive amount of fear amount around their health because they saw someone get sick, lose their life, die from cancer, chronic illness, etc. And so there is an aspect of fear that is rooted in what we call your voids. So, if you have a void of something, you don't have something, then that could play a role in around some of your fears or anxieties, and that can be a driver to your values. But the thing is that that can only get you so far. You may have heard us talk about this topic in the past, is that, one of my values is innovative leadership. And part of that leadership, what I classified as leadership in the past and what I classify it as now is very, very different because that was born out of major void, trauma, fear, lack of security, lack of safety. So I felt like I had to lead my own life in a certain way to get out of that scarcity, to get out of that pain, essentially. And then I realized that it is truly a driver in my life. It is a true value, but the version of it now is very, very different. So I want people to kind of keep this in the back of your mind because when we give you your best tools of how to go about creating only a few, maybe three at max goals for yourself, and don't get me wrong, those might have different sub goals underneath them, but three major, like big goals, needle movers. Some of them might be rooted in more of inspiration. This is who I'm becoming. This is what I'm excited about. This is the vision of the greatest version of me, the vision of the greatest version of my life. But you have to challenge it. And you have to challenge it of, is this truly me and what I really want? Or is this rooted in an old fear, scarcity pattern? Because you called me out, you can tell them the story about when I was reading you my vision for 2026 and beyond, because I wasn't 2026 is just one stepping stone in my big vision. And so I was reading a portion of it and I was like, I would love your feedback. And you're like, well, yeah, it
Which
sounded,
scares me because, when a wife asks you your feedback or
I
even a
wouldn't have
business
asked if
partner
I didn't
asks
want to know.
ask feedback, I was like, and well, I responded, it was about 93% accurate.
Mhm.
And I did that also to, make her curious, instead of just diving right in, kind of test the water, how,
Test, read the body language.
I I am closer than an arm length away. I can get smacked. Um, so, she goes, "Oh, well, carry on. Now I'm really interested."
Yeah, I
And
was.
and this is the human behavior for people, is you you can ask questions or you can give ambiguous answers to kind of draw somebody in more, so that you don't get slapped. So she was really interested, and I go, well, from everything you read, a lot of it sounded really authentic to who you are and who you are becoming, but a little bit of it seemed rooted into the old version of Nicole that was, I think, more connected now to like what you would call like your ego. I want to be seen. I want people to think I'm a badass instead of you just, knowing you're a
Knowing.
badass. You don't need anybody else to think you're a badass. And just gave some more examples, and she was like, "You're 100% correct," which is like the third time in, my life she's ever said that to me.
Yeah, well, and again, I only share this because I do think that this is a bit of a theme, especially in high performers, high achievers, which tend to be a lot of entrepreneurs, who is a huge portion of our audience and a lot of who we work with in our private practice. But a lot of us are these high performers, these high achievers, and we're usually doing it because we're filling a void of not being heard, not being seen, not being valued, not being appreciated, um, feeling alone. And we sometimes create these personal brands, and we don't do this consciously very often. But we want to become a speaker, we want to become an expert, we want to become the best in our field, or the biggest expert in X. And I want the biggest podcast, and I want this, and I want that, and it's because we are trying to prove something to the world, we're trying to prove something to ourselves, we're essentially trying to prove something to that little child who felt not seen, not valued, and not appreciated. And, I know that's a big part of my story when I finally was able to see it and be honest with myself about it. And, it gave me a lot of freedom when I was able to say, I don't need that anymore. I don't want that anymore. I want to be able to feel enough, um, by just being me and not being a hyper achiever. And so part of my vision was all about speaking on stages, which is the only part of, because I had a 2023 vision and I read through it just December of 2025, and I was like, wow, it's really awesome that majority of this, 90% of it, has come to fruition. And the only part that didn't, that I hence carried over into my 2026, it didn't come to fruition because it wasn't fucking aligned. And that
And
was me. I want to speak on a stage with 1,000 people, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not saying that that might not happen, but what it was rooted in, it was rooted in, I'm not enough. I need to be seen. I need to be appreciated. I need to be looked at as the expert. I need to be needed. It was rooted in that.
which wants me to come to a quick clarity for people. It's understand that your life is giving you and showing you who you are.
Yes.
That's the be do have principle. So she, quote unquote, achieved everything except that because that wasn't who she was. So now she has two options. She has, that's she took the
Hold on
time
to the
for,
fantasy.
well, she took the time for feedback. You know, she was like, okay, well, I was all that came into my life. I was the being. I did things that was congruent, and I had those things. What I didn't have was the speaking on stage for a large group of people, blah, 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 because you really weren't the person that is that, you know. Going back to the two options, you had an option to reflect and say, that happened because I wasn't in alignment. It's not really who I am. It was my ego that was wanting this, not really me. Or, okay, what do I need to do to actually become this woman? Because if you were that and it was authentic, you might have had limiting beliefs or something that was holding you back from it still. So
Yes.
then
That is, I think that's a great, very
you could have
big
broken
clarifying
down,
point.
you could have realizing that you could have broken down those limiting beliefs and roadblocks that were holding you back from actually being that woman, but you realized that it was actually not in alignment with really who you were. And what was interesting is that you also, in the 2026 vision, you had the same thing, but the complete opposite. That I'm going to speak to a small group of
Yeah.
powerful females as a leader to them. That was in alignment. So you're still speaking, you're still leading, you're actually authentically connected with a group that was aligned with you versus I want to be on this stage, you know, wearing fucking baller female suit or whatever the hell you're gonna wear and thinking I'm the shit and blah 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 blah, feeding ego. So you quickly squash that, moved on. And this is awesome because talking about your social media algorithm, how it was like, you know, more of a recap, an evaluation of what didn't work over the past year, which is awesome. Everybody should do that.
We're going to give you a little bit
But
more detail about this towards the end.
but I also challenge, you know, don't wait for the end of the year. Like
Yeah,
this is
of course.
this is something I do with my 4-year-old. I lay in bed with him at night. I'm like, what
We
was
do
the
this on
best
a
thing?
weekly basis. Literally
Well,
every
yeah,
single week, we ask ourselves these questions and then we hold each other accountable to it as well.
but this is something I do with Quentin. I'm like, what was the
Yeah,
best part of your day and what was the worst part of your day?
yeah,
And then, you know, what'd you do to create that?
yeah.
What'd you do to create the best part of your day? You know, not telling him that he needs to do more of it. I'm just helping
Hmm.
him become conscious of this was great. You enjoyed it. This is what you did to do it. Now connect the dots. You're
Hmm.
intelligent. If you want to do like have more, do more, be more.
Yeah,
What did you do that sucked? You know, what was the worst part of your day? What did you do to create that?
yeah.
Okay, well, now you're conscious of what you did to create it. In the future, if it happens again, you're like, oh, crap, because we're going to go through the same process again. And eventually he'll be able to connect the dots. So he's learning from experience, which is the best teacher. I'm not telling him, sometimes I do, but I try not to tell him, you know, do more of this, do less of this. Like,
Do you know you just quoted Julius Caesar?
no,
Experience is the best teacher.
mm, that was previous life.
That was you in a previous life. Got it. Well,
So it's
I
just,
want to go back really quick though, because I think that this is like people need to understand this point is because I think there is a lot of people doing this limiting belief work and it is valuable, but as you just said, is there was the option to say this is not aligned, which you need data about yourself to know to be able to test that. You need to know your own values in order to test that. Because otherwise, if you don't know your own values and you don't have the ability to test that, Nick gave it to me, but even if you're doing it for yourself, you're rereading and you're like, this doesn't feel right, or I've had this on my goal list 2 years in a row, 3 years in a row. Why has it never happened? You could play that role. Can you see the reflection? That's why you're laughing. um, you can play that game of, oh, it's because I didn't do this or I didn't do that, or I still have limiting beliefs to break down. But if you know your values, you can ask yourself the simple question, is this truly fucking aligned with my true, true, true values of who I am and who I'm becoming? And that was the key factor that helped me to understand that I do want to teach and I do want to speak. It is one of my absolute favorite things to do, but I actually want to do it with a very, very specific type of person, group of people that are interested in taking the information, the knowledge to literally become the greatest version of themselves so that they can create the greatest version of their families. I'm not interested in necessarily just helping people that just want to make a fuck ton of money in their business, or they only want to get better because they want to be skinny, or they want to be healthy because they want to look a certain way to find their new husband or wife. Like, or they just want to get rid of symptoms because those symptoms don't allow them to vacation. Like, I'm interested in speaking, educating, and collaborating with people that are interested in creating a family dynamic that it leaves a legacy. Like, their family can leave an impact and a legacy just because they're fucking awesome humans. And they treated everyone they've come in contact with such an amazing capacity that they're remembered, or it's because they created something or some framework that solves a major problem for the world. I don't really care. But if you're interested in becoming the greatest version of yourself and helping your family be the greatest version of itself, then like fuck yeah, let's chat, let's do it. I'll speak, etc. But speaking to a group of 1,000 people that 90% of them could give two fucks about what I have to say, that was feeding my ego. Yes.
So to interject, at the very beginning, Nicole said her social media wasn't New Year's resolutions or affirmations. Not that those aren't important. It's just not what you do, but how you do it. Everything she just said there, she was most lit up by, I want to work with fucking awesome humans. A great affirmation, look in the mirror. I work with fucking awesome humans. And to watch yourself and see how your body changes when you say that to yourself. That would be a very powerful affirmation for her. It would be in alignment. Everything she just said, she was fired up. She was aligned. You could tell it was authentic. You could tell it was true. It was her. So this is when you should use an affirmation.
Yep.
An affirmation, if she goes,
If it's aligned.
I am, I am, and this you can tell the affirmations. You're like, I am a powerful woman that delivers speeches to thousands to tens of thousands of people who look up to me as a leader. Blah blah blah. Like if that's your
Yeah,
affirmation,
no.
it's bullshit, and
You sound like a robot.
your subconscious is already like, girl, bro, this ain't you. I'm going to give you experiences that are going to cause you a lot of pain as a feedback mechanism for you to see and feel this shit is not aligned.
Mhm.
So, food for thought. If you're reading affirmations right now, or if somebody taught you an affirmation like that, say thanks, but no thanks. Affirmations need to be real and raw. Like you need to feel, it needs to be your vocabulary. And for Nicole, it's not proper. She's from Newark, New Jersey. I work with fucking awesome humans, which got me excited because humans are the actual real version of yourself. People comes from persona, which is a facade. So if you're working with people, already the verbiage of that isn't aligned because people is not actually authentic. People is the persona, a facade created by society. But we're not going to get down that rabbit hole today.
Yes. Well, backtracking a little bit. So, we talked about quite a few different things, but just remembering that as you are creating goals for yourself, you're creating a vision for yourself. And I think it's more important for us to keep this idea of a vision versus a goal because you essentially create your vision and then you set goals to help you achieve that vision. It's pretty much from going from A to B. So you are at A, B is the vision, and then you create the goals, the stepping stones in order to get to the B. And also, you have to be conscious of how far is the distance? How big is the gap? This is something that Keith Cunningham has taught in reference to business. He's like, there's a lot of people that will not want to be honest with where they are. They don't get clarity on their A. And so they talk about, I want to be here. I want to make $1 million, $10 million in my business, but they're not being honest with where they are. So they're essentially just, they don't have a clear map from A to B because they're either not being honest with where they are or they have a complete bullshit uh, injected goal. I want to make 10 million because the other company that's similar to mine in my industry makes 10 million. And so it's fueled by ego. It's not fueled by alignment. It's not even fueled by a why. So we need to be very, very conscious of what is your vision beyond the vision? Like, what's the big, big vision that if you told the average person, they would think you're fucking crazy because most people are like, you can't have a great life. Yeah, well, you can't have a great life. Fucking deal with that. So you have the vision beyond the vision. Then you have, the vision of what the next year of your life looks like. And then you start to set goals to achieve that. If you don't have that clear vision that's truly aligned to who you are, and it's not a bullshit vision that somebody told you should have, you're not going to be successful. So you also have to be conscious of like, let's be honest with what is this rooted in? If you want to be thinner and you don't care about health, then just say I want to be thinner. Like make that part of the vision of I want to look this way. And when I look this way, this is what I'm doing. I'm doing this. I'm going here. I'm talking to this person. I walk this way. I talk this way. I like whatever it is. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to be, I want to be the healthiest version of myself. That doesn't have to be a goal just because people tell you you need to be healthy. Health might be part of the journey for you to get to that best looking version of yourself or the most wealthy version of yourself. And you might say, I want to make a fuck ton of money, but you know that you can't think straight. And so you become the healthiest version of yourself to get your mind more clear so you can stay focused and be committed to making X amount of dollars. All of it at the end of the day interweaves with each other. This is why we've been Integrative Wellness Group and now we're Integrative You, is because everything is integrated and everybody is trying to isolate out. I got my business goals and I got my family goals and I got my relationship goals and I got my personal goals. But if you don't take the time to interweave all of that together as you make a plan for your year, your 3 years, your 5 years, this is why you burn out. This is why it all kind of disassembles. So, our passion is truly helping entrepreneurial parents and families. Like, how do you bring it all together? How do you stay focused in all these different buckets and have them work together opposed to against each other? How many people are like, I want to do this in my business, but then, slowly their relationship is crumbling apart. They if you support your relationship while simultaneously supporting your business, you'll go farther. If you say, "Oh, I'm going to give 100% to my business, but only for quarter one, then quarter two I'll work on my relationship." No. Nope. It's not how it works. It's the same way we look at the physical body. People are like, "Okay, so what are we doing? Are we going to do the liver protocol and then we'll work on my thyroid?" I'm like, "No, we're working on everything together." And they're like, what do you mean? My last doctor told me I had to do like heavy metal detox and then I had to do chemical detox and then I had to do my thyroid and I was like, no, that's why it didn't work. That's why you're here. They're like, oh. I was like, just trust the process. So I think that
Yep.
Nick's going to have his own version of this, so I'm going to let you share as well because our brains work very different, and I do think that, the average female brain, average, masculine brain, it, they work different in how they create a vision and set goals. Hence, I said that I created a story. I was like, we have all these assessments that we did do, but I felt like I needed to just brain dump before doing those assessments. And I essentially wrote out the categories of life. I wrote out personal, me. I wrote out family. I wrote out relationship, even though Nick is part of my family. I still wanted to isolate out and speak to exactly what I wanted our relationship to look like, in addition to what relationships look like with my friends group, finances, wealth, and then business. Those are the main categories that I focused on. Um, and I wrote the story. I wrote the story of, in my current brain and vision, the best version of who I'm becoming, from who I am and what I know and how I talk and how I hold myself and how I walk and how I dress and what my physical body looks like, what my face looks like, everything, and how I'm perceived by others. And I wrote exactly what I want my family to look like, parenting to look like, my kids to look like, my home life to look like, our relationship to look like, what my friends are like, what do we do together, what do we talk about? And I separated out business and wealth because some of you business owners, and I know I've experienced this quite a bit with coaching healthpreneurs, is that you put both in the same bucket, but really at the end of the day, what you're building in a wealth portfolio is different than what you're doing in your business. Your business shouldn't really be your only asset, but looking at all of the assets that you are creating, acquiring, working for, etc. So I just wrote the story, and the story was, some people might be like, "You're crazy. Like, are you really, like, do you really think it's possible for someone to achieve all this?" That's the point. The point is the vision is so big and grandiose, and it's really exact, like it's the best version of yourself, the best version of your life. And the question that when people are like, I don't even know where to start, I'm like, if you did not have to earn money tomorrow, you are independently wealthy, what would your life look like? What would you do because you want to do it? You get to do it. If you could hand pluck, or you could curate your perfect partner, what would it look like? If your kids, you would see them at 20 years old and you're like, oh my God, they're fucking awesome. I did such a good job. Like, what would they be like? What would they look like? Like, you have the ability to create anything you want if you have the utmost clarity and the utmost focus. And I don't think a lot of people realize how powerful we are in that capacity. But this is one of the reasons why people teach things like meditation, or I'm sorry, manifestation and meditation, because they've experienced that massive clarity of vision, and having a vision beyond the vision is what is the key to creating the greatest version of your life and the greatest version of yourself. Nick didn't write a story.
I'm not a story person. Sounds great. Not how my brain works. I'm very I don't know the word you'd say, but in my in my brain, I would say efficient.
You are
S-
very innovative and efficient.
Stories take up a lot more space and time than I think is necessary. So I did something similar, just I guess more of like that man to the point, less less fluff. So I had the categories of life and literally just wrote everything that was, the vision that I wanted in there with as few words as possible. And because I wanted to make sure it was clear and concrete for me. And the, for me, that's left brain. So I'm always processing things through both brains, left brain, right brain, to make sure that it fits, that it's authentic in both sides. We can process something left brain's like, yep, fuck yeah, that's me. And then the right brain is the feeling aspect of it, which processes it completely different. And the right brain, if I'm feeling that like overly proud, I know that this is not congruent. This is just filling a void. If I, so long story short, I want everything on that big vision to be inspiration, to be felt within my heart. And if it's not felt within my heart, if it's felt somewhere else in the body, I know that it's not congruent. So it's a quick way for me to check in, being like, okay, here's what I think my vision is. Can I hold myself accountable? Where do I feel it? How do I feel it? How strong is it? And then I go like deeper. Just because it's in your heart region doesn't mean it's necessarily like it's you. Um, so once you feel inspired, you want to get used to the quality of that. you know, what is the temperature? What is the color? Is it warm? Is it light? Is it heavy? Is it dark? Like, go through objectively, like a scientist, and break down as specific as you can what your intuition, what inspiration feels like for you. And the more you can get used to feeling that, then you have a very good quote unquote temperature gauge to be able to judge things against. So I go through left brain, I create the categories, fill it out. I go into the right brain, I
For
check
those of you that
in.
are like, we're gonna give you the guide to this. So you are aware that, you can kind of just now focus on what he's saying, to take away pearls, but you will actually have access to a guide, with all of the specific questions so that you can either do my style of the storytelling or you could do Dr. Nick's style, which is more specific questions about specific categories.
And, once you know it's congruent, it's let's play ball.
Well, and I also think that, at the end of the day, one of the other links that we'll have here is if you are like the story one really vibes with me and I think that would be great, but you start the process and you get really stuck, you really need to do your values. Like it's at the foundation of all of our planning that we do for ourselves, for our family, for our business is all rooted in alignment to the values. And anytime that we have start creating a laundry list of different goals or business initiatives or big decisions that need to be made, we cross-reference it back to check how aligned it is with our values. Like the vacations we take are dictated by our values. Like I think people just don't understand like how you can literally create a frame, your own personal framework that you apply to your life that allows you to maximize your time, your money, your energy, and it allows you to make big and bold decisions with confidence. Like that is one of the biggest avenues of freedom that anybody could ask for. So I do want you guys to keep in mind that knowing who you are at your core and knowing what you value the most and what is absolutely most important to you is the guiding force behind creating goals, mapping your year, mapping your next 5 years. And so the main thing that I want to say is you need to know your values, number one. Number two, if you have not tapped into your creative juices in a really long time and you have way too many fucking limiting beliefs or shitty people in your fucking ear telling you that you can't, you can't, you can't, you can't, you can't, then like my version, you're probably not going to be able to do. I don't think I would have been able to do my version 5 years ago, which is sitting down and saying, this is the badass that I want to be. This is what I want my relationship to look like. This is the amount of money that I want to have, and know that I will create it. Like that took me a long time. But one of the things that Nick didn't share, that was part of both of our process, was also reflecting on the year prior. So no matter where you are in your journey, looking at knowing the mind and human behavior, it's looking at like what didn't work could be a starting place for those of you that haven't tapped into creativity. You haven't tapped into vision because you just feel chaotic and stuck and overwhelmed, and you think it's like, oh, cool podcast, guys. That's not for me. That can't happen for me. Like, yes, it can. Get out of your own fucking way. Love you. But start with what didn't fucking work. Because if you're in that mindset, I'm sure you have a laundry list of what didn't work. And if you use that information through this guide that we've created, this framework that we've created, you can then understand why it's not working, understand the root of it, and then also choose a new level of tolerance, choose a new path, choose a new pattern, and shift that as you move into this year and beyond.
Boom.
I was like, does he have anything else he's going to say? All right, guys. So we are going to give you access to this framework. Use it. Don't use it once. Come back to it. If you create goals and you never fucking look at them again, it just don't even do it. Just don't even bother. Literally, we have a giant calendar that is 6 feet wide that has our entire year mapped out. If that's overwhelming to you, do the next month to 3 months. We also have a whiteboard where we have all of the major things that we're doing and not doing as a reminder. The more shit is in your face that you see it over and over again, put it on the back screen of your phone. Put it somewhere where you're going to see it. Put it on your desk. Put it on your desktop, and just put it there so that you could see it every time you have to go to work on your computer. Whatever it is, just make sure that you revisit it over and over and over and over again. And the fucking best feeling in the world is when you go back and you reread your goals, or you reread that story and you go, holy shit, I did it. Like all of it came to fruition. That's really such a powerful moment. And then you just keep capitalizing on that and compounding from there. So I hope that this was, started out as we shit on your dreams and now we're inspiring you. All right, we'll see you on the
Well,
next one. Oh,
yep,
oh, no. All right, come
we're
on.
good.
One pearl, one pearl.
We're good. We're good. We're good.
We're
Bye,
good.
Penny.
Okay, we're going to leave it at that.